What to do about Jeremy? It all looked so good. Hundreds of thousands of people joining the Labour Party. He was going to storm to victory in the next election, and suddenly they're on 24% in the polls, and their biggest backer, the Unite Union, are saying unless things buck up before the next election, he may have to go. And a couple of your SMSs that have come in. One here from James. Corbyn now comes across as lacklustre, being totally out of touch and having no fire in his belly. Unlike you. All right, okay, fair enough, thank you. Message for Nigel. My family and I, 6 adults, were all Labour supporters. We all voted UKIP and Brexit because of immigration. Labour failed us, and Diane Abbott is even worse than Jeremy. And that's from Tony in Essex. And I have to say that several times now I've seen Diane Abbott appearing on big television interviews, heard her on radio interviews, and I get the feeling that in many ways she's actually insulting old Labour supporters who think immigration matters. It's as if they've said something that is deeply unpleasant. What does Dara in Hammersmith make of all of this? Dara, good evening.
Hello, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. Tell me, are you a Corbyn man?
No, I'm not. I am a Labour Party member, actually, and I also supported Brexit. And one of the reasons why I don't support Corbyn and I support Brexit is because, you know, there's this big issue at the moment with free movement and immigration from the European Union. And the reason why I'm not in favour of free movement is because lots of people in my family, including my dad, who's a carpenter, my uncle, who's a plumber, and some of my other relatives, is that they've seen their wages undercut because there's been a mass influx of, you know, of cheap labour from the European Union, and therefore their wages have gone down. And I think the Labour Party is a party that I joined because they're a party of workers' rights. You know, I supported their policies on housing and education, of course, but that's the main thing that they were set up, you know, to exist for. That's what they're meant to be fighting for. So for Labour to support free movement and to turn a complete blind eye, you know, to this idea of workers being undercut because of free movement, I just think it shows that Corbyn is completely out of touch with the working class in this country.
Well, Dara, I agree with everything you've said. So how come you're still a Labour Party member then?
I agree with the core Labour values. Right. I think, like lots of, you know, Brexiteers in the north, I would agree with the ideas of, you know, public ownership of the railways, anti-austerity, workers' rights. It's just I don't agree with Corbyn. I think the problem with Corbyn and Diane Abbott and John McDonnell is that they're very idealistic. You know, they're almost like hippie socialists. They don't really connect with the concerns of the working class. You know, they want to stay in the single market. They're not concerned about immigration. And I think, Nigel, you know, Paul Nuttall and your party, I think they're going to take away so many votes from Labour. Because at the moment, Corbyn is just not listening. I mean, Miliband was the same, Blair was the same, Gordon Brown was the same. They're not learning and they're not listening, because I think they're stuck in this situation on Brexit where there's half of the party like me and, you know, half of the voters who will go to, you know, who will go out to UKIP if Labour support a so-called soft Brexit, which, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that's not Brexit at all. That's the same as staying.
So Dara, could you, as a paid-up Labour Party member, could you contemplate voting UKIP at the next general election?
You know what, I wouldn't want to, because I agree with your party on Brexit and on immigration, but I'm not so sure about some of the stuff that your party has said on the NHS. And like I say, generally, I would agree with, you know, with Labour on most issues. But if the next election is, you know, an election about Brexit, Nigel, and I'm one of the hardest Brexiteers you'll meet, okay, I think there's a possibility that I could vote UKIP. I mean, I'd probably vote Labour, but I wouldn't rule out.
Well, Dara, let me tell you, on the Brexit issue, and we're not discussing that this hour particularly, but on the Brexit issue, I am absolutely, completely convinced that if we do not get a democratic Brexit, meaning we've left the European Union, we've left the single market, we've taken back control of our borders, then I think the 2020 general election could be all about Brexit and finishing the job. So, let's just watch this space. Dara, thank you very much indeed.